G'day and welcome back to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. This afternoon, we're going to be talking all of the events of last night's Richmond-Carlton match, and we're going to be talking about what's to come this weekend. How can you prepare your team for round one? Let's go!
Just done it from nowhere. Hoisted the goal from inside the centre. Sheed from the boundary. Dusty. Round Kenny. Petrarca. Oh, wow. How good is that? The legend becomes immortal.
G'day and welcome again to the Ball Boys AFL Fantasy Podcast. I am your host, Mitch Casey, and joined with me, subbing in for the intro there, Luke Roger. How are you, man?
Good, man. I just wanted to see what it felt like to press the buttons, and I've had one shot and I'm 0 from 1.
You had 2 buttons that you could have chose from.
I didn't know. I went to the red button. It was meant to be the green button.
Yeah,
And then...
green means go, red means
Actually,
stop at the end.
True.
You know, I've color coordinated this and everything, mate. But yeah,
that was a bit of fun. I'll work on it and I might come back later on.
We'll see how you go, but a little test run there. But yeah, we're talking the first game of the season has been and gone. Didn't get a result really. We had a draw.
Yeah.
We've got some fantasy stats and scores to reflect on. We've had teams being named yesterday as well, which is going to take up a lot of today's podcast. And we've also got some questions that some of the listeners have floated through that we might answer as well.
That'd be great to answer.
What do you want to pick off with, man?
Last
hold
night
on.
Let
me pick up with the controversy that you stitched me up here. Apparently I've stitched you up with your team. You want to set the record straight for the listeners out there?
Oh, I'm innocent. That's all I've got to say. I had a prior commitment leading into team announcements yesterday afternoon. So I said to Mitch here, have my login details, and if anything goes tits up, just try and sort it out for me. And no, to be fair, you did a good job. I think we had
Phillips on field, so that was one.
So we had to get Phillips out. You brought Hollands in, and it was looking bleak at halftime. I think that was when I tweeted, and I just said Mitch has stitched me up, but it kind of came.
I was falling down.
Maybe I overreacted.
But overreacting in round one of AFL Fantasy, we would never do that.
No, who would think? But in the end, Cowan got subbed, and Hollands kind of put up a semi-respectable 44.
Yeah, a semi-respectable 44. Geez, our standards are low at the start of the year. But look, and I had the Cowan on the field. I think you did as well.
Yes,
we both sort of, after the podcast finished last time, we're tossing up, okay, Cowan D6, Campbell Chesser D6.
Yeah.
And I think I lent the way of Cowan over just because I felt like more people would start him because he's in the first game. A lot of people sort of go that way. He's a more expensive guy. People would do that. Felt safer. I also thought that Campbell Chesser, there's a lot of been talk about him being managed early in the season.
Chesser's going to come out and drop a 120.
I just feel it. Yeah, I know. And now that I've thought about it, I'm like, goes out, maybe he'll get inside time, some stuff. He's versing the Kangaroos, but
it's hard, hey?
Rookie roulette.
But regardless of fantasy, how good was it to just have footy back last night?
Yeah,
I saw a few people, getting around on Twitter saying that, not exciting, no result, or not exciting game of footy. But I mean, like,
I was thrilled by it. Yeah.
Whenever you have a close game of footy, for me, that's exciting. I don't, mind, whether it's free flowing or close and in tight. If it's a close game, then it's enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, and it was good. Obviously, the MCG looks magnificent as always, and it's just great to have it. Are you? But before we get onto the fantasy stuff, are you? I know you're obviously a hardworking man. Overworked, underpaid, as they say.
Mate. Appreciate that.
Are you a fan of the Thursday night footy, or do you prefer your weekend to start with footy on the Friday night?
No, I actually like Thursday night footy. I think the more days of the week where I get to watch footy, the happier I am. But it's obviously, it doesn't always work in with your schedule, does it? So I've got a commitment that's weekly on a Thursday, and so it means I miss a little bit of that.
Yeah,
but
fair.
Still good.
Yeah, I personally love the Thursday night games. I also love the daylight savings time where it starts for us. That 6:20 time for us over here in Queensland instead of the 7:20 or 7:50 where it starts in a few weeks' time. But yeah, anyway, the more footy we can get, the better. But let's talk about where do you want to start? Let's start with perhaps last night's wrap up.
Yep.
So let's maybe go through our teams, man, and how we started. So we've also talked about the rookies a little bit here, but so let's start at the top at defense though.
Yeah.
Doherty, 110. Are we? You've got him in your side.
I do. So you were doing a little bit of a team reveal thing. What were you telling me last night?
Yeah, slow team reveal on Twitter. Okay. So as my team, plays their games, I'll announce that as the, just for the fantasy community to just have a little bit of a check-in. Not that anyone really cares what I do.
but people who are watching would have seen that you didn't have Doc. I do have Doc, and we had such an interesting conversation last night because I've got the VC on Doc, and you asked me at the end of the game, you said, okay, he's 107. Are you going to take the VC?
Yeah, 107.
And I was sort of thinking, 7, I don't know. I might go, captain. And then I think I went to the toilet or something, came back, Doherty, 110, taking it. It's 3 points. But I don't know. There's just something like there's something about it. And we talked about this on the previous podcast too.
We kind of lined, didn't we? We said 110.
I think we almost did say 110. And it's like you're not going to completely lose out if you take the 110. Let's say another guy that you could have captained goes 130. You do lose a few points.
20 points.
But if the guy that you were going to captain comes out and
injures himself
in the first, then you stand to lose 200 points potentially. Yeah. So I think the safe option, especially round 1, we're easing into it. I think I'm probably going to Luke Doppy.
Look, if he was on my team and I had the VC on him, I would be taking 110. Yeah. Just because, like you said, at the start of the season, we don't have as many captain options. Obviously, we've got fewer premiums in our side. So I think while 110 isn't super exciting, I think for me it's enough to just tuck away as my VC and not have to worry about the stress of choosing a captain for the rest of my round. As a non-owner for Doherty, 110, look, he's priced at 110, he scored 110. I don't necessarily think it's a win for me or a win for Doherty owners. It's just sort of a wash mark.
Yep.
What will sort of, I guess, the weeks to come will sort of who it is and has to go against a Doherty, be how he goes in the coming weeks, but also how well the other options that I have at my, obviously I'm saving a bit of cash there, how well I can spend that cash and sort of see how it all flows out in the wash.
Definitely.
So I think that obviously he scored well at halftime. I was feeling pretty good at 37, I think, at halftime. And then
put it like at 40
third
points.
Quarter went crazy. Yeah, and that goal that he kicked from bloody 60 meters, that hurt me a little bit.
It was good. As a Tigers fan, it hurt me, but then at least I had the...
Then you remember you had him as your VC?
Yeah, so I was, it was all right. We had, a lot of us might have had a couple of rooks getting around last night. So Cowan and Hollins, I'd imagine, would be featuring in a few teams. Obviously, Cowan, we mentioned to and alluded before, he got subbed in the end. He looked like he was getting a little bit of the ball sort of at half time, but he did look like he was butchering it a little bit. Which
he was turning it over a fair bit. Yeah,
we don't know if that contributes to the sub, but then Hollins we mentioned before as well, sort of struggled for the first half, but then he popped out a sort of a third.
He ran a lot, and that was the big thing on him. He's good running capacity, and I think he led the game almost in the kilometers stats that they put up there on Telsa tracker.
Yeah, when you can run like that, you'll eventually be able to find the ball.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You'll work your way into the game. So I think he did that. 30 in the second half made me kind of eat.
He probably looked better to me than a Cowan from a pure footy sense.
Yep.
I think some people were floating out there that Cowan got subbed because of an injury. I don't think that was the case. I think he was just tactically subbed off.
It'll be intriguing to see where that leaves him next week. I think is what most people will be looking at.
Yeah. So, and I'm interested to see what the other defensive rookies in a Wilmot and a Chesser do, and whether or not it's clearly okay. Next week, we just make the adjustment, put some of those other guys on field for those of us that did start him on ground.
Yep.
Or if all three of them are going to be a risk of subs, and maybe there's a requirement for a bit of a restructure there. This is what I was concerned about. And before the Elliot Yeo injury, and also before I found the winning fantasy formula, I had a rookie, I only had one rookie in the back line.
Yep.
But since that, I've sort of flicked it around, and now I have the two. So we'll see how it goes and see how the rest of it fills out. But obviously, I think if you've got Oliver Hollins, I had him on bench with the emergency on him. If you had the emergency, you're not looping it or anything crazy like that. But 44 is not going to kill you. But even I think most people would have one of the two on their ground, I think, for the most part.
I think towards the end there, at least, I think he saved his cash generation. So he's put up something that at least is going to send him in the right direction. And then another fella who is definitely going in the right direction is our boy, Timmy T. I think it was great. It was great to see him score all those points, but then you knew every other relevant fantasy coach.
Well, I was pretty happy because he was the captain of my draft team. So that was me cheering along for that. But so, he is probably in most serious teams.
And I know it's only one game, but for me, he just kind of confirmed the point that we were all making, is that yes, Richmond has this system that's not necessarily great for fantasy scoring, but they've never had an absolute beast fantasy scorer in that system. So if Taranto continues to get that midfield time, he was tackling in there, he was getting these scrappy kicks out. There were a couple of mark kicks in there as well. So I think he's going to be fine and will quite easily be a top 6 forward. So any other guys you want to talk about from that game?
There was just maybe a couple we'll touch on really quickly, which was Adam Chera. I wanted to just touch on real quickly. Some people were looking at him. Started well. I think he was on track for a ton, had 50 at halftime, but sort of just faded in that third quarter, ended up finishing on an 89, which is about where he's priced at. So I think if he is someone that you had there, depending on what happens in there, I think he could be. I was never a believer in him anyway. So, depending on what happens the rest of the round, he might be a guy that could be maybe someone that you jump off of and jump on the guy that pops because, I just don't. This was a game that you didn't have Sam Walsh in here. We're 1 week closer to Sam Walsh coming back. I just don't think that he's going to provide us what we need him to do. You would have hoped that he'd start the season really hot because when Sam Walsh comes back, inevitably he's probably going to lose some points.
Agreed.
But outside of that, Jaden Short, maybe we touched on.
Yeah, Shorty started well. I think he had 50 at halftime, and we talked about maybe him at round 6 getting DPP. It's interesting because if he does get DPP, you don't really want him to go too well at the start because then he's going to increase in price. He's just one to wait and watch with his role. And Toby Nankervis scored ridiculously well last night, but don't be tempted in any way into that. That's not reflective of what he'll do for the rest of the year.
The thing I'm taking away from that is maybe we need to look at Rucks versus Carlton. If Mr. Worldwide, Mark Pitnet, is not playing and they are going to go with Tom de Koning because
it was hit out central for
Nank had 37 hit outs, 11 tackles.
Yeah.
So I think that's a career high. I think I saw
if Nank had 37 hit outs, a guy like Sean Darcy will have 70 hit outs.
Yeah, so I think that might be something that we look at. I have had a quick look at their schedule. I don't think they come up against, Tristian Xerri or North Melbourne, which we'll talk about them soon in round 4. Rowan Marshall, round 6. So say that comes up, that might be someone that you might even look at a bit of a captain option on a Rowan Marshall because, and we'll have plenty of data to see multiple weeks of, if that is a real thing or if it was just a flash in the pan for a Nankervis who did have 11 tackles, which is not something, he's a good tackler, but I think I saw today career high. So that's all really touch on from last night's game. Let's get stuck into the teams. And I guess the guy that I did just mention before is probably the big thing to talk about and a lot of decisions, at least for my team. I know you're thinking about it too. We did mention it in our Rucks episode. I slipped it in there at the end that Tristian Xerri has been named sole ruck.
Mate, I was so excited. I was actually next door sitting on the can reading this article and I felt I need to text Mitch about this. This is intriguing.
So you saw some comments apparently.
I saw some comments and I haven't had a play around just yet because I flew home from work this afternoon to record this one. I haven't had a play around with the team, but the article that came out where Clarko made a few comments about why they've chosen to select Xerri and leave Goldstein out. There were a couple of little statements in that article that kind of filled me with a little bit of confidence. So there was a statement that read something to the extent of, we know that Xerri is our guy going forward. He knows
he's the ruck of the future.
The ruck of the future.
Yep.
He also said that he was looking to pick a lineup that had speed, pace. So those kind of comments, if that's the way that Clarko wants to go, then that to me doesn't seem like something that you quickly backflip on next week.
Yeah.
I don't. Clarko's so seasoned that I don't see him as being the kind of coach that if it doesn't go well this year, he suddenly backflips on a strategy and goes, "Oh, okay, Goldstein back in it." He's not looking towards now; he's looking towards the future. So I don't know. There's every chance after this podcast I go in and see what the team looks like with Xerri in there.
First of all, I want to answer the question, is this something you could do? And my answer to that is absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this is absolutely something that you could do and is definitely a play. We did highlight this prior to the teams being announced, so it's not something completely out of left field, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I highlighted this because last year we had the very similar situation of Tim English and Steph Martin both played in the preseason games, sort of like 50-50. Tim English was the main guy, but Steph was in there. Steph Martin wasn't there. Tim English was named sole ruck, and he obviously to break out Tim English, Tristian Xerri, similar ages.
I don't think the breakout's quite going to be.
I don't think that we're expecting the same sort of thing, but the value I think is there. And again, you've got the two older guys, so Steph Martin and the Goldstein there. Different teams, obviously. Got North Melbourne versus the Bulldogs, so two different ends of the spectrum in terms of point scoring. But Tristian Xerri does have a fantasy scoring pedigree. He has had some really good VFL numbers in the past. He has scored decently, even as sort of just that number one guy, even with a Goldstein in the team. So I think he went on to average, it was something like 77 when he was the number one ruck guy with Goldstein in the team. So I think with him being number one, I would consider him an 85, 80 to 85. I think that's pretty conservative. He's also in round one coming up against the Eagles, who are going with Bailey Williams and Jamison. So no Nick Nat. It's a very easy matchup.
It could be.
So I expect him to go big in the first round. The question where a lot of people are coming into is round two, he's got Freo and Darcy and Jackson. A lot of people are saying that Goldstein's going to come back for that game. And, they're going to go with that two ruck setup there. Look, I think it's a punt you could take. It does. I guess it just depends on what can you do with that cash.
Exactly. If you feel really confident with what you can do and you think, geez, this makes my team just look insanely good, then it's something that I'd definitely endorse. But if I have a play around with it this afternoon and I can't really find something that makes me feel really good, then I'll probably just go back to the safety. I think I've got English in there at the moment. So, yeah, I think that the other thing that we underestimate is with those kind of mobile-ish ruckmen as well. He's not just a
lump of a lad.
With those, they're in at more centre bounces than the midfielders in terms of percentages, and so they get the first opportunity at tackle at ground level.
Little handballs.
They get the hit outs, sort of handballs, even a hat kick in time. So they can score well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you do it, don't blame us. But if you don't do it and it goes well, don't blame us.
Yeah. Well, if you do it and it goes well, credit us. But so here's some examples of what I've sort of played around with, because I have definitely spent a bit of time messing around with this on my team. So there's a few different scenarios that I'm doing with my squad. So at the moment, I've got either a Sean Darcy or a Jared Witts in my R2.
Yeah.
So going down from a player like that to a Xerri, you get about 200K basically.
Yep.
So if you put that on top of a Will Day's head, it's enough for me to get up to an Andy McGrath. Okay. So you basically be comparing, let's say, a Jared Witts and a Will Day to an Andy McGrath and a Tristian Xerri.
So McGrath,
it's almost like a premium and a worse mid-pricer versus two mid-prices that are a bit closer to sort of premium status.
Andy McGrath's got a guy that, like, if he comes out and starts punching out 100, 110, no one's going to be surprised. But
I don't know if I'm ready to go and predict it, just with the mouths to feed.
New coach. What does the game plan look like?
Game style apparently looks friendly, but again, it's like one game sample.
And what does it look like in season? Is the coach going to mix things up if it doesn't go the right way? Like, I don't know.
If you
Allen Iverson's fallen over.
Oh no, AI, come on, mate, don't be flopping. If you had like an English, I'd imagine if you went an English down to a Tristian Xerri, you might be able to get a Will Day up to like a Hayden Young or a Nick Dacos. If that was the case, so in your situation with English, again, without knowing exactly, but I think that might be enough to get up to a Nick Dacos.
Depends what good enough.
Do you think that would be something, instead of a McGrath, maybe a Dacos or a Hayden Young? Does that fill you with any more confidence?
So that would be Xerri and Young versus Day and English.
Yeah, or Xerri and Dacos versus Young.
Yeah.
Day and
I almost feel better with English and Day. Day can make some cash, I think, and then English, I feel like, is a pretty confident.
So what do we expect? What do we expect Will Day to do? I think he's probably an 80. I'm trying to be conservative there.
Yeah.
80. And if, let's say, English is what? 100 to 105.
Yeah.
So there's what, 180. And then Xerri's an 85, let's say. And what's Dacos? A 90, 95?
95 would be high end, and we know that draw can be a bit spicy, or that draw we've seen could be spicy for him.
So I think it's pretty similar.
Yeah, and I think Day and English just gives you that ability. It's like English, you're hoping that you just lock and load, and then Day, maybe he increases.
So I guess maybe the riskier side is the Tristian Xerri.
I think so. I think it's the riskier side. Of course, it has the more, anything that's more risky often has the more potential upside. So, the
other option that I've been playing around as well, and I don't know if I'm just spooked from the sub last night, but at the moment I've got 6 rookies on my field. I'm playing around with trying to get 5. And so I'm trying to play around with, if I go like someone like a Wits down to a Tristian Xerri, and then also someone, grabbing a bit of cash on someone else's head, someone like a Steele down to a Josh Kelly.
Yeah.
If I do that, that gives me enough cash to go someone like a Noah Long, so a 200K basement price.
Callahan.
Up to not quite. Oh, sorry. Callahan is in the midfield. I'm talking forward line, going to like a Tanner Bruhn, or
no.
you don't like that?
No.
So that would then put Phillip, who I still have him, but I put him on my bench.
You just want to watch a Geelong player tonight.
I've got no one playing tonight, apparently, at the moment.
You're just itching to get someone on.
I just wonder. I've played around with that, and I'm just worried about that F6 spot. I know some people are fading a Phillip and putting him on their bench because of the role. I've already got the 35 sitting on my ground, so I don't want another poor score. But I think I'm leaning away from that just because, and some people might disagree. I know a lot of other good credentialed coaches are out there that like Tanner Bruhn. I'm not a fan of him and his game. I think last year in the pre-buy, he was averaging 37% CBAs and averaged 60 in that kind of a role. I can't imagine his midfield usage to be much higher than that at Geelong. And I actually think he's probably just as likely to be subbed as a Phillipou in that Geelong team when you've got players like Mitch Duncan out at the moment. Bose is out and looking to come back in next week. I actually think that, and the wage, I just don't trust Geelong at all.
Yeah, which I think is fair enough.
So I think that I'm just paying more for maybe a little bit higher upside than a Phillipou just because of the role, but still the same kind of a risk. And I'm also taking off a better captain option, in my opinion, and a keeper in a Wits for a Tristian Xerri. So I've tinkered around with it.
Yeah.
What I can use the cash for, I don't think is worth it at the moment. So I'm probably leaning no at this stage.
Yeah.
But if there's something that it does fix up on your side and it makes it feel a whole lot better, I would tick it off. I think it is a genuine play. And I think that if it suits your team and your structure, I would give you the green light.
I agree with you there.
The other probably major sub or I guess the non-listing there was the Phillips. Will Phillips for the Kangaroos. Again, the Kangaroos here. He's named an emergency. I think all bets are that he's the sub for that team.
Yeah, I think so. And
which is what led to Hollands being on your ground. It now actually has freed up a bit of cash for me because I had both of those guys sitting on my bench at M9 and M10. So that's where I was able to get up to a Wits in my ruck line. So it's something that, look, what are we doing with that M10 spot or the M9, M10? Like, I know you're running a bit short there. We've only really got 3 guys who are pure midfields in terms of cash cows there. There's not a whole lot of basement options available for us in the mids.
Yeah, it's a bit of a struggle, isn't it? Like I said, I've just rushed home from work, so I haven't had a good chance to go over everything. But it's bleak at that spot, and you don't.
Which is why I wanted to go with, for my structure, you were structured up a little bit differently with the Hollands on the bench, even though he probably is a better scorer than a Cowan or those sort of types. But it'll be interesting to see, what happens there.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I'll have a look at those rookies that have been named, and I'll have a little bit of a squeeze through and see who I'm backing to maybe have some job security there. I'd probably at this point prioritize job security over scoring potential. Just because, excuse me, just because, you come out and you score well in one game and you get dropped, it really doesn't count for anything, does it? So I'm a little stumped in that regard as well at this minute.
All right, let's talk about some rookies that are all confirmed. So going through some of the list and who basically are we picking? Just going to go through these guys. Cade Chandler, 200K forward. Yay or nay on him?
No.
I'm going no on that one there.
Even if he plays consistently,
he's scored several scores below 10 before as a sub, but still, I just don't think he's got the scoring potential there. And there are also a few guys from Melbourne coming back in.
Yep.
Similar story for Bailey Lowry. Nah, no for you. Miller Bergman. He's someone that we haven't really considered. Defender at North Melbourne, 200K. Any interest there at all?
No, I don't need a defender at the moment. But
I think of all the positions, we're pretty set in defense, at least with some guys that we think can score.
Yeah, he could be one of those guys that if somehow round one we see, oh man, this guy's in favor and he's popped and he's doing everything right, he could be a guy that you could shift a few guys around to make sure you get that rookie that pops. But at this stage, no.
He's 20 years old and averaged 75 in the NAB league last year. So it's not the worst, but not the best either. He was the 38th pick in the 2021 draft. So doesn't scream to me like a guy that has the best job security nor the highest ceiling. So I think I'm probably going to pass on him too. Bodie Uland.
He was getting around in a few teams last year as a little DPP mid defender, I think he was.
Was he? Okay.
In terms of, when you start the season, you use that little swingman as like a placeholder.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see how it goes, just purely from that perspective that I've seen the name.
Yeah. You going no there though?
No there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm going there either. Judd McVee. Again, another Melbourne player. I think I'm no here as well. I'm going none of those North guys. I just worry about their job security.
Yeah, I'm the same on that one.
Next guy here, we've got Alwyn Davey, 212K. Are you having him on your?
Yeah, I've got Alwyn Davey in there at the moment. So I think reports are pretty good out of Essendon, and the fact that he performed pretty well in that practice game, I think there could be some job security on offer there as well.
I think he's in for me, and he is on my M10.
So the way you've structured up that's a good choice, I think.
Yep. Fergus Green, I think he's a lock for most people's bench on the forward line.
Fergie, Big Girls Don't Cry, he's in.
Fergalicious. All right, he's on there. And we've got the cyclist. What are your thoughts about Luke Pedlar?
As much as I love saying the cyclist,
no. He's yes for me.
Unless I'm absolutely desperate, but for me it would be more a choice made out of the potential job security than
that's
the
why I'm going
potential.
there. Yeah, I don't like his bench only, definitely not on my field.
So let me throw you this to you. He continues to, play his role well, but he just scores 30s and 40s consistently and goes nowhere. Where does that leave you?
It's a bit of a nothing pick then, isn't it? He's kind of just one of those guys that you just hope there's one game out of the box where he scores.
That's what I hope when I picked Kane Baldwin at the start of last year.
Yeah. I think at least he's kind of like
weeks.
I think there's a little bit of rumor of him getting some midfield time. He might get a little bit more up the ground. He's more of a small forward than a big key forward type. So
yeah,
I think there's a little bit more upside. I sort of see him more as like a Corey Durden type than a Baldwin type. But
yeah,
I think that just the job security just gets me over the line for a player like him.
He could go all right. Once he's got a handle on his roles, I think he's a player that's got gears.
Mate, he's coming left, right, centre with all these picks here.
The cyclist.
The cyclist. There was another Adelaide player that was named. It was
McElhaney or something.
Yeah, McElhaney. Trying to find him here, but
Max.
He is someone so he is someone that I think is a little bit more than basement price.
Problem is he's a defender.
268. I think he's a key defender as well, so I'm a pass on him.
Yep.
And then the last one here, which I think that I'm going to be going for, is Noah Long.
Ooh, Noah Long. I think he's likely to appear in my team as well.
Had some decent scores as a junior, as a forward as well. From
interesting
what I
that we're just banging out the West Coast rookies. Hey,
I know. Yeah, it does make me nervous. But
I'm looking at them hold their role.
At the team there as well. But I think that maybe Jamison might be the likely sub in that lineup that they've got at the moment. Just because, well, first of all, he didn't do much when we saw him last year, and they've got the 2 rucks against the North Melbourne when they've got the sole ruck. They might want to have a bit more speed through there, but it does make me nervous that like maybe a Jai Cully is not in the team and he might come and take his spot straight away. But I don't know if Noah Long's going to be the guy that makes way for that because he's a pure forward. So I don't know if he's going to be the one that makes way. And if he can play well against North.
At the end of the day, I mean, you have to pick the rookies that you think are likely to score well and have decent job security. So just because there's 3 West Coast rookies that we think are likely to, score well and maybe have good job security doesn't mean that you should shy away from that, I don't think.
The other one that we are waiting on is Sam Sturt as well, who has yet to be confirmed. We'll find out in about an hour and a half's time on the time of recording.
Yep.
Or actually probably 20 minutes time if it's daylight savings. So I guess by the time this podcast comes up, you might know whether he's in there or not. Do you think, say he is named, just scenario he's named?
Yeah.
Are you going there over someone like a Noah Long, or what are your thoughts?
Depends who I see might be missing. I think I said a similar thing last night. That for me actually is a big deal. If there's somebody missing of note that I think, that player plays in Freo's best 22, then that probably makes it a different decision. But if they show their intent that they're like, this guy is part of our best 22, a little bit different. What about Caminiti? Did we mention Caminiti?
Oh yeah, Caminiti. Sorry. No, as a forward, I'm passing on him. He's a tall key forward, and I think that he's not going to score. He's the Baldwin to me. The guy that's not going to be generating much score. Cop that, Caminiti. But no, I just don't think he's going to score as well.
Agree.
All right, let's move on to some questions. So
I haven't seen these.
Yeah,
I'll without notice.
I'll give them to you.
You smashed a bit, mate. Do you need another one?
Yeah, mate. I'm
going to run downstairs.
Friday afternoon.
Can you answer the first question while I guess another bit?
I'll last until after the podcast. But what are your thoughts? We've got to answer these questions, mate. The people got to know. What are your thoughts on Tom Powell as an option over a Bruin, Jason Horne-Francis, or a Millera? What are your thoughts on Tom Powell?
I think
he's named without, obviously, Will Phillips in the team.
Yeah, I think Powell will see some midfield time. Who are those other names that you mentioned?
Bruin, Jason Horne-Francis, and Wayne Millera.
I think I'd pick Horne-Francis out of those guys.
I would too. He is the most expensive of them.
And then I'd be going Bruin, Powell, Millera, maybe in that order.
I think I would go. I'd probably go the same order. So best price per ranking that we've got there is Bruin, but I do have my concerns with Geelong and how high he sits in that team. Yeah. If you can get to Jason Horne-Francis,
do that. Yeah,
I think he's the pick there, probably the safest bet. In terms of his job security. He looks like he's going to get some decent midfield time. Tom Powell is a good one, but I think he's kind of the one that if you went to Jason Horne-Francis and Tom Powell pops in round one, it's an easy fix up and you can go down.
Whereas the reverse,
it's much harder for me to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If you can get to Jason Horne-Francis, I would probably do that for you there. LMDT, thank you for your question. Braden Young here wants to talk about Dacos as a viable option for Yeo as a replacement, or is Will Day the better option? What are your thoughts there?
I think if you're considering Dacos, then also consider Hayden Young as well.
It's coming around on the Hayden Young.
Well, I just think that if you're considering Dacos, it's the same price range. You need to at least consider both.
$7,000 difference.
Dacos, you started to spook me a couple of weeks ago when you started talking about the...
Yeah, mate, I was
Well, not only
I'm almost upset that everyone's come onto my side here. And now they're all jumping off.
Not only the draw, but the tag target as well. This kid is just such a freak of a player that in his second year, we're talking about him being easily the number one tag target. So that's the big flag for me. If you go down today in that situation, you obviously save yourself some cash and you do have the potential to make a little bit of cash there. So the ideal scenario with Day is that you drop down to him, he makes 150, 200K, and then you drop a rookie and you upgrade to a top 6 defender and you're happy as Larry. I'd be going down.
Yeah. I probably would be going down to, I just think for most teams, it's if he's your D2, then I'd probably be going up. If he's D3, I'd be going down.
Yeah.
So I think if depending on where you had Yeo, I think that's where I would go, because I don't want to have, Will Day that high up on my list because he is still a question mark at the end of the day.
Yep.
There you go. End of the day. Very accidental pun there. But I think that he is someone, I'd probably be going there for most scenarios.
Yep.
All right, let's give you some more questions here.
Yeah, what do we got?
Thoughts on Andy Brayshaw? Aiden thinks that he's a great pick and has a great role, balanced game style, consistently, yada, yada, yada. Just thoughts on why you didn't mention him as a captain segment. So I guess for us, the reason that we didn't mention him as the captain is because of the tag risk in round one.
Yeah.
I think he's a great player. Obviously, I picked him last year as my favorite pick of the year. I do just think that there's a lot of people saying that Sarong's going to break out. A lot of people saying that Will Brodie might get some more time on ground. Some people think that even someone like a Diego O'Meara coming in, replacing Old Man Mundy is going to increase his scoring. So there's only so many points that I think go around in that Freo midfield. And I don't see much upside, if any, maybe even more downside for a player like Andrew Brayshaw compared to some other guys around his price range. I think I'd rather go like a Clayton Oliver or a Jack Steele if you're wanting that captain option personally.
You still see him as being a top 8?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
So in terms of that guy's question, let's say he's got him in there.
If you got him in there.
So why not captain?
It's the tag risk.
It's just the tag for you?
Yeah, it's the tag risk because for me, captains, when you're relying on them as like your end of the weekend sort of thing, the last thing you want is him to come out and put up a 70 or something like that as a captain.
So let's say, I mean, if Brayshaw was playing earlier in the round, then you probably sign off and go, hey, throw the VC on and see what happens.
VC, but it's the late. Here's the last game of the round.
With the captain, you want to be pretty much ticking all the boxes to make sure that there's not even the hint of something going wrong.
That's right. This man is asking another sort of Tom Powell, McLean question. So he needs to take out McLean. He doesn't know who to choose out of Tom Powell or Wayne Miller. In that instance, I'd be going Tom Powell. Yeah,
me too. Is there a way that he could, if there's a way that he could swing his team to get Callahan? Do you know what I mean?
So put something into the midfield, maybe.
If there's that potential, but
if there's that potential, I'd probably go that way too. But I think Tom Powell is the better one for me. Wayne Miller, we haven't seen. Tom Powell is probably going to get inside mid-time.
Yeah, I agree.
High junior numbers. So I think that's where I'd be going there. Cool whip. Are Laddams and Lysette viable, or would you pay the extra amount for English? If you're going the Laddams-Lysette way, I'd be going Tristian Xerri. I think out of all those players, their same price range, I'd be going Tristian Xerri out of all of those guys. So for me, Lysette is off the table. Forget Lysette. Set and Lysette. You know, I'm not going to knock this over, mate. It's all good.
It looked like you were getting very
I was.
What's that called? Gesticulating. Is that a word?
I think
I'm going to confirm that. I think talking with your hands is gesticulating.
Yeah, but anyway, I think if you go in that price range, you're going for a Tristian Xerri. So if that's your option there, I'd say yes.
It is gesticulating.
Oh, well, there you go. I guess I talk very gesticularly. I don't know if that's a word.
You can't say testicular.
Mate, the Oxlongs. Would you do that or you're in that situation now? So it's very much team dependent, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. If you're looking at those two, I'd prefer Xerri.
Tristian Xerri, the X-Man. Let's do maybe one more question.
Pick a good one.
I'll give you a 50-50 call. McGrath and Tom Green or Baz and Will Day?
Tom Green, Day, Baz and Will Day.
Yeah, I think I'm the same there. I mean, we're pretty partial to.
I think that's an obvious one.
Bailey Smith there. I think of that trio, Bailey Smith is the obvious keeper in all four of them.
Yes.
Whereas I don't know if McGrath or Tom Green are keepers.
Yeah. In that scenario, if you go McGrath and Tom Green and they both become top 6 and top 8 in their line, equivalent, then that's an outstanding pick.
Yeah.
But Day's probably not going to be a top 6 defender. So
Bailey Smith could be a captain option.
But I think there's more risk going Green and McGrath, because if they both end up not being top 6, that's two trades versus the one to get.
I would agree. I think Baz and Will Day are the picks there for me.
Definitely.
So that might do it for us today, guys.
Yeah. Do you want me to do the outro as well?
Oh, yeah, give it a go. What do the people got to do?
You've lost it. Like and subscribe.
Yeah, maybe. Like and subscribe, man.
Like and subscribe. Get around us if you haven't already. We're on the quest to 1,000.
829 subscribers so far, guys.
That's it. I was going to say followers. So it's kind of like spiked up a little bit in the last couple of days. So we're looking for 1,000. If you haven't already and you're enjoying the content, please subscribe and leave a comment. If you agree with us, leave a comment. If you don't agree with us as well. Exciting times. Footy is back.
Fantasy footy is back, and we'll see you guys next time. Press the button, mate.
Which one?
This one.
Okay. Catch you guys.
See ya.
Recording stopped.